fortunate. Oh, okay.
Sorry, Joe.
All right. So we're very fortunate in that our AFSL holder is an actual property developer. So we have on our approved product list property strategies that you won't find as a financial product. So I just thought out of interest, you might want to know what is going on out there. Some things like certainly for first home buyers, but also from a parenting point of view, it's a really exciting strategy that we've been putting people into for some time now. And it's a way that you can actually utilize your super to buy a home. Because I'm not sure if everyone knows that you cannot, your super's sole purpose test is for retirement. And I know that a lot of us at that end in life, but I'm sure you've got children and grandchildren that you may learn or even pass on. So in our office alone, we've probably got 40 people into a home over the last 18 months, utilising their super, which has been fantastic to get them into homes. But you can also use the product as an investor, and I'll explain an exciting string to the bow for that as an investor as well. And then I'll also show you, as I explained, our AFSL holder. He does very unique developments, and just make sure that he doesn't just build property. I think you'll be interested to see what he's doing. He is located in Perth, he lives in South Perth, so a lot of his developments are there. But it's just interesting what he's doing as in community developments. So there you go. All right, I'm just going to get all this through so that I've got a still screen. Oh, and I've done that. Okay, everyone's okay with that? All right. Now, this product was actually created by a gentleman who lives in our Southern Highlands, and he was a managed a trustee for a large company, like, I'm not going to say it was MLC, but let's picture something like that, for many years, where he would, because they are actually trustee over people's super funds, and he did that for many years, managing people's super, and there's absolutely billions in these unit trusts that they are investing every day. So that was his life. And he had 4 daughters. And then in the 90s, his daughters got to the stage where they were going to get engaged and get married. And he thought, hang on here, if I give them a deposit, where's it going to end up? In the divorce court? Not that he was judging his future son-in-laws, but none of us ever know. And I'm sure we agree with the divorce rate of today. It's a bit scary if you help your kids out and then 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years down the track, the house has grown in value, and your 100,000, it's a hell of a lot more than that now, is caught up in all of that, and your daughter or son has to share your money with the outgoing partner. Okay, so that's the reason that he actually developed this product. So originally when it started, it was more for parents or a friend, anyone who was lending, gifting a deposit for anyone to buy a house. So let's look at this side here. Here's a house that his daughter wanted to buy, and she could nominate a property. And I've just put 600,000 in there, mainly because with our presentations, we do a lot of work with Perth people, so they can still, their median house price is still at 580. So this presentation was the 40 people on our books that have done this particular strategy, probably only 3 or 4 have been from the Eastern Seaboard, because we do get a lot of leads from the FIFO workers, the miners, because as you know, they earn a lot of money, they have big supers, but their saving skill is just donuts. Okay, so within 2 months, they can actually save for a deposit of the house if they utilize their super this way. Okay, so here's Mr. FIFO worker, and he's found a property for 600,000, and he has 200,000 in super. Okay, so he can, if he finds a sponsor, that's what I'm calling it, a sponsor, and that can be a parent, a friend. And when the gentleman designed this product back in the early 2000s, he actually approached the ATO to see if that purchaser, sponsor, could also be the parent's super fund. And so that meant that the parents didn't have to use equity or cash. They could invest some of their super. And then it turned around that the ATO and ASIC looked at it and they also okayed any self-managed super fund. So that allows Mr. FIFO worker now to form a self-managed super fund, and he actually wears two hats in this transaction. So on this side, he's nominating a property that he would like to buy to live in. It's going to be in his name. Okay, because if you go and purchase a property with your super, it must be in your super name and it stays inside the super fund. Okay, but this way, the purchaser, the title goes in his name, and he must bring to the table 2.5% deposit. Now, you won't find that anywhere in the banking system. 5% is the minimum amount. Okay, but in this case, they only want 2.5%, and they don't care if that's a loan from a friend, from the developer, who cares? Okay, now, to put that into context, that means that this FIFO worker is borrowing 97.5% value of that house.
Wow.
Okay, now if you go to a bank, you only can borrow 95. That's your maximum. And then they'll charge you mortgage insurance, which most of the youngies now are averaging 40, 50,000 on a transaction to the mortgage insurer. And a lot of people think that that they're insuring the mortgage themselves. They're not. It's the bank is making them pay their premium to make sure if they default that that loan is paid out. So I'm not sure if you know, but in the non-securitized lending, by that I mean, let's say the big four banks, they don't insure mortgages up to 80% value of the mortgage. They are quite happy to take the risk that the market won't drop any more than 20%. But any borrowings over 80%, the purchaser must pay mortgage insurance to protect the bank. Okay. So in this case, sure, the borrower was borrowing 97.5%, but there really is only 80% of that 97.5 coming from a bank. Okay, oh, sorry, here. Okay, so on a $600,000 transaction, the bank will loan $480,000, and they're quite happy to lend that because there's 20% risk being taken by someone else. Okay, so the purchaser here goes to purchase the property, has to find a sponsor. Now, whether that's a parent, friend, or their self-managed super fund, and that's what my boys do in the office. They set up a self-managed super fund for Mr. FIFO. And he has 200,000 in his super. And for this transaction, he's going to need about 140,000 from that super. So let's call this investor here a self-managed super fund, or a parent or a friend. Okay. And that investor, so a self-managed super fund, has to invest into this mortgage trust, which is called the Storehouse Residential Fund. Okay, now that Storehouse Trust lends out second mortgages. That's what it does. And it also equity shares with a portion of the house that it's lending to, which is this portion here, 17.5%. So in this trust, it now equity shares with over 190 properties. Okay. And it also has in there for ASIC and the ATO to pass this as a financial product. They had to have cash in there. They had to have other assets. So they actually own houses outright in there, not just equity sharing portions. They own land. They invest in shares. So they're actually a managed fund as well. But their main thing is that they lend a second mortgage. And that's this little thing here called HAS. It's called Home Affordability Solutions. Okay. So the Storehouse Trust through HAS is the face of it out in the marketplace, will lend 17.5% value of this house to Mr. FIFO. So that's where the 97.5% comes from. 80% from a normal bank and 17.5% from the Storehouse Trust. Okay. And the other 2.5% must come from Mr. FIFO out of his pocket, or whether he borrows it or whatever. As long as he can service the debt under the bank's criteria to 97.5%, they are happy to lend him the money. Okay, so there's actually three entities involved in this house. So we've got the normal bank, deposit from the Mr. FIFO, and then 17.5% lent from the Storehouse Trust. Now, the investor over here, which is also Mr. FIFO, but it's his self-managed super fund, invests in this trust and gets a return every year. There are many other investors who invest in this trust that aren't involved with anyone who's purchased a property. They're happy to invest into a Storehouse Trust because they are then investing direct into residential property, because normal super funds don't. They'll either do unlisted investments, which could be airports, Westfields, but they do not invest in residential property. Okay, there's about 25 million under management in here. Okay, so that investor then will get a return from that every year. Before this property boom, it was averaging around 2, 3, 4%. But last year they had 10% because of the uplift in the market. So therefore, Mr. FIFO is wearing two hats. He is the trustee over his super fund. So his super fund's getting a return on his money. It's invested in this trust. And if Mr. FIFO stops paying and he defaults on that mortgage, his super is untouched. It's only affected by the 120,000 loss that will take place in this trust here. We've never had a default yet. But if that 25 million pool of funds, if Mr. FIFO decides not to pay and they have to sell that house up, of course, the bank's going to get first cut at the cherry, the pie. That trust will lose 120,000. So in the scheme of things with 25 million, it's not a great risk. And it's no different to any super funds or managed funds out there investing. They don't always win. So on this side, the super fund is what we call it's widely held, meaning that that money that comes in that's invested is spread over all of the assets in here. The Storehouse Trust will then give him a loan of 120,000 on this side. And they're really good. They actually allow them to invest enough money to give them 3 to 5 years of the interest on this portion paid up front. So it gives them a really good kickstart of only focusing on getting the bank loan paid off. As a matter of fact, we've got people that have inquired now who are not managing with these rate rises on their mortgages. If they've got enough equity in their homes to refinance with HAS, the repayments will be lower. Okay. So that, and this might get a bit complex for you, but that actually portion here is what this equity shares with. And it is a 30-year loan. They may never, ever pay that out. But if the property keeps growing in value, the mortgage gets paid down, at some stage, they'll be able to break away and refinance away from the Storehouse Trust and then just have either a 70 or 80% lend with a bank. And they will, if they make 100,000 worth of gain, they will owe this storehouse trust 17,500 for equity sharing with them to give them a start. Any questions? I know it's complex. Okay. So the reason that the owner, Peter Delaney is his name, started, again, was he wanted to protect his deposits. And you can see if this investor is a parent, it's not granting the deposit to the child, their children. They're actually investing into a trust. They're getting a return. Their risk is so much less because it's going over at the moment 190 properties plus other assets in the fund, but it allows their child to get a loan and go off on their own. And they are accountable to an actual public trust, not to mum and dad. And they have to pay those repayments. And that's where he came from. Okay.
Yep.
Move on. Okay. So this, just wanted to check something else. Yeah. Okay. Good. I mentioned up front that our licensee does a lot of high-end developments. And again, Perth is about, I always say about 20, 30 years behind Sydney. So these luxury 3-story townhomes, and over there, they don't, well, they do have strata because they have units, but for them to carve up a piece of dirt to make villas, they can end up with townhomes because they don't use body corporate like we do over there. They actually slice up the land. These are actually land house packages. There's no common wall. They actually just butt together. So that entitles the buyer to still own the land. Okay, they have to build what's on the DA. They can't just build what they want because they've all got to be built together. But it's sort of a halfway between a Torrens title, in Perth they call it green title, and a strata. It's called survey strata. So if they wanted to put a 4th story on that, they can do it all they like. There's no body corporate to answer to. Okay, so there's still a lot of big homes in Perth around the CBD in the luxury suburbs that are on big blocks, and they're getting too old to look after them. So what our licensee is doing now is buying these houses on big blocks, and as you can see there, there'll be 5 luxury townhouses on there, and the aging population will gladly move into them. They have lifts. You can see here they have sunrooms. They are top notch, even to the point of gold and platinum guidelines, meaning state-of-the-art technology that they can stay in their homes without going for care as long as they can. As I said, lifts from the basement, from the garages right through to the bedrooms at the top. Of course, there's stairs, but they have lift. As they get older, they'll still be able to live in that house. Okay, so now the reason I'm showing you these is because there's another strategy attached to them, in that the HAS product, we're now putting syndicates together where 5 younger people, say in their 40s, who can really only invest in what we call mortgage belt type suburbs where the first home buyers buy. And for them to invest in those elite suburbs, they don't have, like one of those townhomes would be 1.9 million or 1.6 to 1.9 million. So they don't have that sort of money to invest with. And this is a low risk investment for them. And we always say it's that second investor who've already bought an investment property, and now they could buy another property, but they might want to put their money into more of an elite suburb. So we're putting, say, 5 people together out of their super. Their super invests 100,000 each into the storehouse trust, and their super gets a return. And here they just form a company, so 5 people together. And for 5 years, it's called a 5 years fixed term. they will go on and invest and buy collectively one of those $1.6 million townhomes with no money down out of their own pocket. As long as they invest 100,000 each into that storehouse trust and their super gets a return, on this side, the storehouse trust will lend, virtually make up to 100%. And that way, they've invested their super into a mortgage trust, gets a return, but on this side, they will actually get 1/5 of all of the deductions on that property. And that property alone would have tax write-offs of about 100,000. So they get the growth of that property, and those sorts of suburbs would probably get anywhere between 20 and 40% growth every 5 years. And we all know that in Sydney. It's old money. The younger people can't buy them in those areas unless they are earning mega money and they've got a lot of deposit. So this is giving our investors in their 40s a chance to invest low risk, because if anyone defaulted on this side, they haven't even put any money in. It's actually the storehouse trust that would lose out. Now, why is the storehouse trust doing this? Because they will now, when we go back to that other slide and you saw all the houses in there, there's 190 homes they're equity sharing with. By doing this, they're actually reducing the risk in the storehouse trust, because they're now equity sharing with those older suburbs where it's old money and there's not a lot of mortgages over those properties in those areas. That's why for the investor, they don't have to put any money down. Everyone with me on that?
Yeah.
Cool?
Cool.
Okay. Oh, I did have more houses there, sorry. Okay, so I just wanted to, I mentioned, I'm sorry, they sent me a PDF and I couldn't get it off, but anyway, it's just a screenshot for me to show you this. Now, where are we in pictures? In pictures, here we are. Okay, again, I just wanted to just really of interest of what sort of properties our AFSL hold, and not only doing those really luxury townhomes for the aging population. This is it's a suburb, or it's a town centre called Como in near South Perth. There's an old picture theatre, which you can see here, which is heritage. And around it is just your normal shops and et cetera, et cetera. But you can see here, he's actually reviving the whole block. But the exciting part is that, and I'm going to read this out to you. There it is there.
Sharing your screen at the moment.
Can you see?
I can see.
Yeah.
Mum,
Okay.
see.
So it's a whole new vision of vibrant community living. And again, there's suburbs with a lot of older people and big homes. Some of them already need some care as well. Their health might be deteriorating and they need care. So this whole, just going down here.
She's not sharing a screen.
I don't know what's happening.
Oh, I don't know why. You could see my PowerPoint, couldn't you?
No.
No.
So you didn't see any of the PowerPoint at all?
I'm so sorry. I'm probably stuffed up, Joe. It's probably me.
Oh.
Sorry, just a second. Andy, we'll see if he can fix it.
You're sharing your screen. You don't need to do that. All right, Joe, just try and share your screen. That's one of those controls at the bar at the bottom in the middle.
Multiple participants can, so it should be all right.
Yeah.
And sharing options.
What's this castle thing that's in front of
Yeah, that's fine.
you? Hey, here we go. Tallinn, Estonia. I'm not
Can
going.
I just change this? Close this
Yeah,
now?
you can close that.
I'm not going to Estonia.
Okay, how's it going? Can you organise it now? Joe?
You've got to give me control, I think. Do
You
I?
have control.
I've just given you control, I think.
Oh,
You've got
okay.
permission.
See how that goes. Can you see now?
It's working now.
Now we've got it.
Yep.
Wow, at last. I'm so sorry, Joe.
No, all good.
Thank heavens for Andrew.
So where did I lose you? Was it here?
Well, I think it was
At the
close to the
beginning.
beginning. But let's not go all the way to the beginning. I'm sure.
No.
Let's just go to where you think it's best to
Okay, hold on. Okay, did you see the? I'm only going to quickly flick back and flick through. Did you see them?
No.
No, we didn't see them.
Okay, they're the high-end townhomes. You know, I was telling you about the 3 stories with the lifts.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so that's what they.
Now, is this very similar to what you were talking to me about for that $1,000?
No,
Okay,
no, but
different.
they're an actual single level. These are your real elite suburbs. These are worth 1.6 to 1.9 mil each.
Yes,
okay.
well, that's out of my range.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And
Yes.
that's why I'm saying, like, we put people together. We might put 5 people, they'll invest their super to buy one of these, but they'll end up with the property in their name. Okay, so, and then I'll show you too what else he's building.
So does
And
that mean, Joe, that if I sort of, just for argument's sake, if I was to actually put down some money with Andy and Dan when they're working, like they're working, that the 3 of us put some money in to buy 1.6, so what would that be, about 500,000 each or something?
well, we're putting groups of 5 together, about 110,000 each.
Oh, I see. So it has to be 5 people together.
Bring it up to 6.
For that amount of, for that, well, it may not be, someone might put 200 in.
I see. Okay, all right.
The advantage is you're just, it's costing you nothing. You're not putting any money down, but you're investing, your super is investing into a trust and getting a return. But then you're picking up the benefits of getting tax breaks because the property's in your name.
In whose name? I'm a bit confused
The
there.
investors' names.
So
Like,
if it's,
you know when you do tenants in common,
Yeah.
there'll be
So-
5 people with tenants in common.
So do the people that are living there, are they paying rent?
Yes, they will be.
okay, and so it's tenants in common, so it would be in my name and Dan's name and Andy's name, for example.
Yeah. It's no different, you know, like when years ago, we don't do it anymore, but well, the tax department didn't like it at the time, but if husband and wife bought a property, we usually put 90% in the husband's name so he could pick up all the tax benefits, 90-10. But the courts got that good, it didn't matter anyway. That it didn't matter as long as if you lived with someone more than 12 months, everything had to be split anyway. So then we just ended up putting 100% into the husband's name so he could get all the tax benefits. But if you go and buy a property with a friend, you don't do joint tenants. You do tenants in common.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the strategy. And this one, I'll just show you. Okay, I just wanted to show you some community living, a revamp. And as I said, there's people in this area that even have health issues already. They don't want to go into a home. So this whole community type living, there's the old picture theatre, and around it, and the reason I'm showing you this, that's exactly what it is. They're delivering a new vision of how to build property. So in this, you can see there that that's a, you know, a model. There's going to be shops, retail, but it's the integration of aging in the place, accessible housing. There'll be NDIS, SDIA, livable housing mix for silver, gold and platinum. So that's how the government now is doing the NDIS. Because some people, platinum need, you know, lifts and to, like I mean lifts to lift their bodies, not as in lifts you'd get into, go up a flight of stairs. So the whole plan of this community is an integration of, and it's even got students accommodation, subsidised living, independent living units with care and support on site. So that means the elderly, that or the aging population can move into these places, and they don't need, they're not NDIS, but there's always someone there in case they need someone.
So who's paying for the upkeep?
This will be body corporate.
Right.
Okay, and they'll integrate different providers to come in as well. Just different providers that'll come in for each area. Whether it's NDIS would be, of course, more care, but independent living is just someone there in case they need someone. And they might, out of those 20 units on one floor, there'll always be a carer's unit. But the whole building will be wired with like high-end technology, to the point where even if a daughter is in New York and her mum's in one of these units, the daughter will know if she hasn't been to the cabinet to get her daily medication.
That's a good idea. Catherine?
Wow.
So it's called Community and Commerce, and it's, as I said, and even student accommodation. There's a lot of universities around here, but that's good too, to mix old with young and just to build a community.
It's a very different concept, Joe.
Should have been done years ago, a lot of places, instead of just whacking concrete units up.
Yes, it's a real town planning type
Correct.
understanding.
Yeah. So yeah, that's about it, guys. Just a bit of, you know, a bit of, what would you say, interest on what's going on out there.
When you were talking earlier, Joe, about the self-managed super funds, etc., could you just go over that a little bit, please? Because we didn't have the shared screen at that time.
Okay, so you mean this part?
Yeah, I think so, where we were talking about the super funds.
Yeah, so this purchaser here, and I'm just giving an example of what we've done, a FIFO worker, right? He can go and choose, because he's got 200,000 in super, and he's using some of that super to invest. He forms a self-managed super fund. So the super fund is the investor, invests into the storehouse trust that happens to lend out second mortgages. So the super fund will get a return here, but then he wears another hat and actually becomes a purchaser because he found a sponsor to invest into the storehouse trust. So he gets a loyalty loan of 97.5% lend. So we've got over 40 people in the last 18 months a chance of getting into their own home, because they only had to find 2.5% deposit.
So they pay the 2.5%, they pay that, and then they just have to pay off the rest through an ordinary bank loan. Is that the way it works? Yeah,
the 80% is a normal bank loan.
Okay. But how are they paying back the trust?
Okay, so, and I can understand if you couldn't see it. So I've got little notes here. For 4 years, they pay this portion, this portion here at 3.25% fixed. And they pay 4 years of that interest up front on this side with their super. It comes into the pool. And that gives them 4 years of only paying this 80% bank loan.
And after the 4 years?
This will go up 3.25%, will go up by CPI. And then they have to start paying it out of their pocket.
So
They'll have two loans. They'll have 2 loans then in 4 years.
Yeah.
Joe, I'm just wondering why don't they just get more of the loan from the storehouse rather than the bank? It sounds like the storehouse is giving it at a better rate, and it's a lot.
Yeah, I know.
As well.
Really, I think a lot of that is because the storehouse is really still building. It's in the last 2 years, it has significantly got to the 25 million. It's been amazing. It was such a slow build that it just didn't have the incoming investors to lend out more. And that,
Yeah, okay.
that could change now. And the idea of, like when I was showing you these properties, right? If we get investors to participate in the storehouse trust into these areas, it's going to strengthen the trust, because at the moment it's lending to first home buyers in what I call them the mortgage belt suburbs. Okay, they're first home buyer level properties. So that's why he's allowing 100% lend, and the storehouse trust is lending more on this side, because it can now get properties of this caliber and these suburbs of old money, properties that'll value a lot quicker, and properties in those areas that a large majority have paid off.
All right, I've sold my big house to you, and you've built these super duper units they've got lifts and everything that you need.
Yep.
But why would I not want to own that as opposed to having to
No,
pay
they
rent?
can. Maybe out of those, maybe as he keeps going, he could find someone who's sold the land to do a deal that they get one out of it.
Right.
This is just an example. Yeah. Yeah, that could be their land payment. They could get one out of it. That's their payment. That certainly will happen. He's only just started. This is his first. He's got two. The next suburb, which is another high-end suburb, 2 sold even before they put the services in.
Right.
To locals. The only reason why he's opening it up to the storehouse trust is, again, to strengthen that trust. If we could get 2 out of each development in the storehouse trust, it strengthens that trust with assets at this high level.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, I think that quite honestly, with the pricing of things and even the prices of these units at 1.6, it's made it impossible for our young people to buy into any property. So having a system where 2 or 3 can join together to buy one.
Yeah.
I mean,
and just
then,
think of it
then
this
the
way
only problem with that is that, I'm sorry, Joe.
No, you go.
My only thinking is that if you say had 3 people buying one or 4 people buying one, then you'd have to split the rent 3 to 4 ways, I'd imagine.
No, they actually don't collect the rent. The rent stays in the bank account. My Mitch will be managing it because he has got an AFSL. So the rent will stay in there, because what it will do, it'll fund the difference between the shortfalls of the rent and the borrowings. So virtually, they've put no money into it, okay? The super's been invested to give them a chance to go on title, right? The rent stays in the account and pays all the outgoings.
I see.
A purely capital growth investment.
And so in 10 years, if there's some sort of global collapse or something and you know, things just go awry and you don't have capital growth, then you've just basically, it's the super fund that's lost its money. Is that right?
Correct. And if that happens, everyone's super's gone. Because if these suburbs collapse like that, there's no economy.
Mm.
It would be like your area, Catherine. It'd be like Petersham. It would be like if those areas are collapsing, well, the whole economy's gone.
Mm. And does it have to be a super fund, Joe,
No,
that takes the money in?
no, it's just good for young people trying to get tax breaks, and they've got super sitting there. And if you think about it, they could go off and buy their 100,000 would be worth 5 3s 5, say about 400,000, right? A portion in this property. The value of their 100,000 they've invested is 400,000 worth in that property, correct? Well, you could go and buy a $400,000 worth of a unit somewhere. Wouldn't be in Sydney, but you can still find them elsewhere.
Mm.
And it would not go up. It would not go up the same rate as a property like this. If you went and bought a unit in Penrith, it wouldn't go up the same speed as what a house would in Petersham.
No, I
So
understand.
your 400,000 is leverage. You're leveraged better in an old suburb than say Penrith.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And just there's one question that I haven't been asked, and I did cover it. 5-year fixed term. Okay. So the reason being is every 5 years that property must be sold because someone out of that 5 group might want out. Okay. So every 5 years, if someone wants out, if we still get the 20 to 40% growth in those suburbs, then they should be able to refinance out. They should be able to buy them out, their portion out, because there would be equity in that.
And if for whatever reason there's no equity in it and they can't, I mean, that's been the problem with common tenants in common is that,
Yep.
you know, if one wants out.
Yeah, well, you'd have to stay in, but then it's if you think of the young people, it's their super that they can't touch anyway till they're 65. So why wouldn't you stay in till the suburb picked up again? And the chances of that suburb picking up a lot quicker than outer suburbs is always.
But if you say here, Joe, where you have to sell after a 5-year period.
That's
Yeah.
only because if someone wants, you have to give someone an out. So either you'll get someone to come in and replace, or the other 4 will buy them out. But again, it's low because it's their super. They can't touch it till they're 65 anyway. Why wouldn't they stay in?
If I'm understanding you correctly, you don't have to sell in 5 years.
No,
It's an option.
no. Sorry, you don't have to sell. It's
I
only
see.
that option must be in there because you can't have someone in there who can't get
I
out.
see. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
no, sorry. I don't believe they would sell. Why would you? It's costing you nothing.
Hmm.
And if there is a global correction or whatever, as I said, like if you hang in, those suburbs will come a hell of a lot faster than the outer suburbs.
What you were saying here earlier, Joe, about you get 5 years at 3.25%, and then there's a period of time when you only pay the one loan. I think it's the first 3 years.
Yep.
You pay your bank loan.
5 years. It
And then-
doesn't matter. It's 3 to 5 years depending on the property.
And then after that, you've got 2 loans to pay.
Correct.
And you've got 2 loans, and it may be at a much higher rate than 3.25 and 6%.
The 3.25 will go up with CPI. Whatever the CPI is in 3 or 4 years' time, goes up by that.
And the 6%, the bank loan?
Well, whatever the banks are doing.
And if it gets to like the 80s where we were paying 18%,
Thank you.
it gets a bit crazy.
Yeah, but everyone, I'm not sure if you know, but there's 40% mortgage stress now in Sydney because the young people have gone in with $1 million loans at 2.3%. They're going up
Oh,
to
yeah.
6%. It's going to
Yeah.
happen everywhere.
It's just terrible. I personally don't think a house is worth $1 million. I'm sorry, but I don't.
I don't either.
I think, you know, when I was a little girl, $1 million was a huge amount of money. Nowadays, it's like an ordinary house.
Yeah.
An ordinary house was about 50,000 when I was a
Yeah,
young woman.
that's right. That's right.
Wasn't $1 million.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I've got to run. My little one's grandchildren are back, so you can probably hear them in the background.
Joe,
now.
thank you so much. It
No
was a
worries.
really interesting talk, to say the least. I
No
mean,
worries.
I'm astounded with just how many projects you get involved with and how much you know about every one of them. I can't keep up with you, Joe. I just can't. I feel like I need a private session now, a private lesson on how to do this properly.
Yeah.
Thank you
it's
so
good.
much.
Yeah, it's all different strategies. Okay. Nice to meet you all. Bye,
Thank
guys.
you very
Joe.
much, Joe.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, darling. Bye, darling.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks very much.
Bye.
Okay, I'm just going to stop
Thanks, Joe.
recording.